What happens when the man who signs the paychecks gets told to hurry up, or you'll regret it? Quinn Talbot stood in the back of his black pickup truck, tugging on a faded hoodie and a pair of steel-toe boots. The parking lot was half full, already buzzing even though it was only 7:30 in the morning. The sun was barely cutting through the clouds, but the warehouse's loading dock was alive with beeping forklifts and shouting. He looked nothing like the man who bought the supply chain company 8 years ago. Gone was the press suit and leather shoes. His beard had grown out, dusted with a bit of gray. A pair of thick-rimmed safety glasses hid his eyes. No one would recognize him, not here, not at Store 6. This was one of 8 branches across the state. They handled everything from industrial tools to safety gear, mostly for construction sites. The company had grown fast, maybe too fast. Reports from HQ said Store 6 had high turnover and low morale. But the numbers still looked solid. That didn't sit right. Quinn didn't trust spreadsheets to tell the full story. They never did. He walked up to the employee entrance and buzzed in. A tall, wiry guy in a vest opened the door. "You the new trainee?" the guy asked, not even looking at him. "Yeah, name's Todd," Quinn said, using the alias he'd been given by HR.
"Follow me. I'm Shane.
Manager here." The man didn't smile, didn't shake hands. Just turned and walked. Quinn followed him past racks of box gloves and pallets of paint thinner. The place was organized, but there was something off, too quiet between the noise.
No casual chatter, no laughs.
Just sharp commands and tired eyes. In the break room, Shane tossed him a thin vest. "You'll shadow Micah today. Don't get in his way." Micah, a stocky guy in his late 20s, gave a polite nod when introduced. "You ever work warehouse before?" "A little," Quinn replied.
"All right.
Starts easy. We're restocking aisle 4. Micah handed over a scanner and a cart. "I'll show you the bin system." They worked quietly, moving through the rows. Micah was patient, explaining each task without rushing. He didn't talk much about himself, but Quinn noticed how he picked up extra slack without being asked. After 2 hours, Shane walked by and barked, "You're moving slow." Quinn looked up mid-scan. Still getting used to the system. Shane stepped in close, voice low but sharp. "I said hurry up, or you'll regret it." Quinn froze. He didn't move,
Didn't speak.
just stared at the man. Micah stepped forward fast. "Hey, he's new. He's just..." Shane cut him off. "Nobody asked you. You want to join him?" Quinn's jaw clenched. He looked back down at the scanner and forced himself to keep moving. He needed to see more. A confrontation now would blow the cover. Lunch came late. Micah sat next to him on a dented bench, unwrapping a sandwich. "Don't let Shane get to you," he said.
He's always like that.
"Worse when corporate's not watching. Does nobody report him?" Micah shrugged. "People do. Nothing changes. District manager's his buddy. They go fishing together." Quinn stayed quiet, absorbing that. Later, they moved to the loading dock. A shipment was late, but Shane still yelled at one of the drivers for not unloading fast enough. "Why's everyone so tense?" Quinn asked Micah during a quiet moment. "We're short 6 people," he said. "1 quit yesterday. 2 last week."
Why?
"Can't take it. The yelling. Being talked to like you're trash." People got bills, though, so they put up with it until they can't. By 3 o'clock, Quinn's back ached. He wasn't used to this kind of labor anymore. He bent down to lift a box and winced. "You all right?" Micah asked.
Yeah.
"Just old bones." Micah chuckled. "You're not that old." Quinn smiled, but his mind was spinning. He'd seen enough for one day. And he felt something sink in his gut, a mix of guilt and anger. He'd built this company up, but somewhere along the way, he let people like Shane take over the front lines. Later, in the locker room, he overheard 2 workers whispering. "Shane told Carla to clock out early yesterday. Said she wasn't pulling her weight. She was sweating through her shirt, man." She got a kid to feed. Quinn sat still, tying his boots slower than needed. That night, he sat in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling. He ran a hand through his beard. He'd bought this company to build something better, not just bigger. But somewhere along the way, people like Shane had slipped through the cracks. Tomorrow, he'd be back. Still Todd. Still just a trainee. But not for long. Quinn arrived earlier the next morning, still wearing the name tag that read Todd in faint black marker. The air in the warehouse was colder than the day before, but the tension felt heavier. There was no morning huddle, no good morning from anyone walking past. Just the low thrum of forklifts and the occasional clang of metal shelving. He found Micah already up on a ladder in aisle 7, restocking packs of industrial respirators. "You're early," Micah said without looking down. "Figured I'd try to keep up today." "You're fine. It's not about speed. It's about not getting noticed." Quinn didn't answer. He grabbed a second ladder and began helping from the other end of the aisle. They worked in silence for a few minutes until a voice echoed from behind them. "Why are there two of you on the same task?" It was a woman's voice, sharp, flat, impatient. Quinn turned. A woman in her mid-40s, clipboard in hand, stood at the end of the aisle. She wore a manager's vest, but her ID badge was flipped backward. Micah climbed down. "We were just splitting the load. It's faster this way." "Micromanagement isn't your job," she snapped. "You restock what you're assigned. Todd, go to receiving. Now." Quinn didn't move right away. He looked at Micah, who gave a small nod just enough to say, "Go." As he walked, he heard the woman mutter, "Always got something to say, doesn't he?" That was new. Yesterday, it was Shane. Today it was her. Another supervisor, maybe? He'd have to find out. In receiving, Quinn found a boy he couldn't have been more than 19 trying to muscle a pallet jack into the back of a delivery truck. His hands were shaking from the effort. "Need a hand?" Quinn asked. The kid hesitated, wiped his forehead, and nodded.
"Yeah."
"Thanks." Together, they got the pallet onto the dock. The kid, who introduced himself as Jordan, looked exhausted. "You on your own this morning?"
Quinn asked. "Yeah."
Supposed to have help, but Darnell called out. "He's been out 3 days now. I think he's done." "Is that usual?" Jordan gave a tired laugh. "Pretty much. People don't stay here long." They were interrupted by a loud bang. A box had fallen from a poorly stacked pallet near the far wall. Quinn turned to see a woman standing nearby, arms crossed. "Pick that up."
"Now," she said.
Jordan moved to obey. Quinn asked, "Who are you?" She narrowed her eyes.
"I'm Leah."
"I run receiving." "You got a problem?"
"No."
"Just to know who to report to." "Well, now you do. And next time something drops, you pick it up before I have to say something." Quinn nodded once. Leah walked off, muttering something under her breath. Jordan waited until she was out of earshot.
"She's always like that."
"Thinks yelling makes her a leader."
Quinn didn't respond.
He was busy watching Leah walk directly past a half-empty pallet that had been sitting there since yesterday. No clipboard check. No scan. Just a glance and gone. By lunch, Quinn had seen enough to know that Leah wasn't doing her job. She gave orders but didn't verify anything. Inventory was being entered late, boxes misfiled. And yet, she always had time to bark at someone. He sat with Jordan and another worker in the break room, a guy named Kyle who looked like he hadn't slept in days. "How long you been here, Kyle?"
Quinn asked.
7 weeks. Feels like 7 years. "What's your job?" "Returns and broken stock. I'm supposed to have 2 others with me. 1 quit, 1 transferred. I've been asking for help for a month. Any response?" Leah said, "Be grateful you've got hours." Jordan added, "She said the same to me last week." Quinn leaned back, the plastic chair creaking beneath him. "Anyone from HR ever visit?"
Kyle shook his head.
"HR? They're ghosts." We get emails. That's it. After lunch, Quinn was reassigned again, this time to front of house, where customers came to pick up orders. It was quieter, but more exposed. A bell rang every time the door opened. A woman named Tasha ran the counter. She was fast, focused, and polite, even as she juggled 3 different pickups at once. "You've done this a while," Quinn said. "For years. I've seen it all." "You like it?" She paused mid-scan. "Used to. Before the last year or so." "What changed?" She glanced toward the office window. New district manager. Promoted Shane. Leah came in right after. Ever since then, it's been numbers first, people last. Quinn helped her pack a box of welding gear. "You ever think about leaving?" "I got 2 kids. Can't afford to." A man in a hard hat came in, looking irritated. "My order was supposed to be ready an hour ago." Tasha checked the system. "It says it's still being pulled." "Unbelievable," the man muttered. "Every time I come here, it's a mess." Quinn offered to run back and check.
Tasha nodded.
He found the order half-staged in the back, missing 2 items. Micah was nearby, loading shelves. "Need help?" "Yeah, if you can find these 2 part numbers." Quinn handed over the slip. Micah scanned it, then led him to another aisle. "You know they cut our staging staff by half." "Why?" "Leah said we were over budget." They found the missing items and brought them up front. The customer was still fuming. "I'm switching to another supplier," he said. Tasha apologized again, but the man waved her off and left. Quinn stood there, watching the door swing shut. "How often does that happen?" he asked. "Twice a week. Sometimes more." Back in the warehouse, Quinn noticed Shane talking to Leah near the office. They weren't reviewing anything, just laughing, casual, comfortable. Whatever problems the staff had, these 2 weren't feeling them. Then something happened that snapped everything into focus. A young woman, no older than 22, approached Shane near the loading dock. She had her hands clasped nervously. "Hey, Mr. Shane. I was wondering if I could leave an hour early today. My son's daycare called. He's running a fever." Shane didn't even look up from his clipboard. "Not my problem. You want to leave early, don't bother coming back." She blinked, stunned. "But you heard me." She stood there for a moment, then turned and walked away, wiping her face with a sleeve of her jacket. Quinn stared at Shane. He looked proud of himself, like he'd solved a scheduling issue. That was it. That was the moment. He walked away from the dock, through the warehouse, and straight into the office without knocking. Shane and Leah followed, confused. "Hey, you can't be in here," Leah started. Quinn turned around and pulled off the name tag. "My name is Quinn Talbot," he said. "I own this company." Silence. Just the hum of the cheap fluorescent lights. Shane opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "I've spent the last 2 days watching you both abuse your staff, ignore procedures, and drive away customers." Leah's arms folded across her chest. "We didn't know. That's the problem," Quinn interrupted. "You treat people like they're disposable when you think no one's watching." He turned to Shane. "Threatening employees? Telling a mother to choose between her sick child and her job? That's not leadership." Shane tried to talk. "You don't understand the pressure. I understand it perfectly. I built this company from the ground up, and I never treated people like that." He looked from one to the other. "As of now, you're both relieved of your duties. Security will escort you out." Neither moved. "You have 10 minutes. He stepped aside and picked up the phone. "I'm calling HR. We'll have interim leads in by morning." Shane's face darkened. "You're making a mistake." "No," Quinn said quietly. "I made one by trusting people like you to represent this company." Security arrived. Leah stormed out without a word. Shane hesitated, then followed. Quinn stood at the office window and looked out at the warehouse floor. Micah was watching from a distance. So was Tasha and Jordan and Kyle. None of them smiled. but they stood a little straighter.
Quinn didn't wave.
He just nodded once and turned back toward the desk. There was a lot of work ahead, but for the first time in a long while it felt like the right kind. Quinn sat alone in the branch manager's office. The door closed behind him. The old chair creaked under his weight as he leaned forward, elbows on the desk, eyes fixed on the monitor in front of him. The employee scheduling system was still open from when Shane had last used it. No passwords needed. Just left up, sloppily. The roster told its own story: minimal overlap, no buffer coverage, and entire shifts with only 2 warehouse staff on duty. He counted 18 names. At full operation, this location was built for 35. He picked up the phone. "Janine? I need you to fly in tonight."
Yes.
"Bring a compliance officer with you." He hung up and stood. The window overlooked the floor. Nobody had returned to work yet. Word had spread fast. Shane and Leah were gone, but the air inside the building hadn't shifted yet. The crew wasn't celebrating, they were waiting. Waiting to see what kind of man Quinn would be now that the mask was off. He walked out onto the floor. "Can I have everyone in the break room, please?" His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. People turned. Some hesitated. But one by one they moved. Inside, the silence was tight. Quinn stood near the microwave. No podium. No clipboard. Just him. "You know who I am now," he said. "But I'm not here today as the owner. I'm here as someone who needs to earn your trust back." Nobody responded. He scanned their faces, tired, guarded, uncertain. "I've seen what you've endured. Not through reports. Not through numbers. I saw it myself. And I let it happen by staying away too long." Still no one spoke. But a few eyes softened. He turned to Tasha. "I need to know what's broken. Not just what I saw. All of it. Starting with you." She glanced at the others, then stood up slowly. "We haven't had a proper team lead in front of house for almost a year. I've been doing the job unofficially. No title, no pay bump. Just pressure." He nodded once. "That ends today. You'll be the official lead. With a raise to match." She didn't thank him right away. Just sat back down, jaw set tight, still watching. He turned to Kyle. "Returns and damage stock. You've been alone." "I've got 4 weeks of backlogged inventory," Kyle said. "I've been logging it on my own time after shift ends. Because it matters." Quinn looked at him hard. "You'll have 2 support staff by next week. Until then, I'll be working with you directly." Micah stepped forward next. "I've been here 3 years. I never asked for recognition. But I've watched good people leave because no one cared enough to stop it. What would have kept them? Respect. That's it. Just basic respect." Quinn nodded. "You've got a name in mind for the interim warehouse lead?" Micah's eyebrows lifted. "You're asking me? I trust your judgment more than the last 2 managers." He gestured toward Jordan. The kid looked like someone had stuck a spotlight on him. He blinked fast. "Jordan's been here 6 months," Micah said. "He's young, but he shows up. Helps others. Doesn't complain when he's thrown into the deep end." Quinn turned to Jordan. "You willing to step up for a few weeks? Just until we get permanent leadership in place." Jordan nodded slowly.
"Yeah.
"I'll give it my best." The meeting broke. People returned to their stations, quieter than before, but steadier. The tension hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted: less fear, more curiosity. Quinn returned to the office and called HR. "I want every employee file from this branch reviewed. Anyone who worked under Shane or Leah and received a performance demerit in the last year, I want those reevaluated." That night, Janine arrived. She was sharp, all business, with a clipboard in one hand and an expression that said she didn't tolerate excuses. By morning, she and the compliance officer were interviewing employees one-on-one. Quinn stayed on the floor. He took orders with Tasha, scanned inventory with Kyle, and joined Micah on restocks. His muscles burned by midday. He didn't let it show. During a lull, He found Micah stacking nitrile glove boxes near the safety gear rack. You didn't have to go that hard for Jordan, Quinn said. He needed someone to believe in him. That's all. You ever think about stepping into a formal management role? Micah kept working. I don't want a title. I just want to do good work without being punished for it. That's fair. Quinn moved to help him lift another box. You know, Micah said after a beat, if you hadn't come in the way you did, we'd still be stuck. People stopped reporting problems because nothing ever happened. You showing up, it broke that wall. Quinn didn't answer, just kept stacking. Later, he joined Kyle in the returns section. The space was cramped and dimly lit, with broken items stacked in makeshift towers. Quinn rolled up his sleeves and started logging serial numbers. You ever think about consolidating the space? Kyle asked. Meaning? The layout's killing efficiency. If we clear out the back rack, we could stage defective items by category. Cut search time by half. How long you been thinking about that? Since week 2. You should have suggested it. I did. Leah said, not your lane. Quinn paused. Well, it's your lane now. Draw up the plan. We'll make it happen. By late afternoon, Janine returned from interviews. She stepped into the office, flipped open her notes. 6 formal complaints ignored. 3 written warnings issued by Shane without documented cause. Leah verbally disciplined 2 employees for requesting family leave. One of them cried during the interview. Quinn stood still. Any legal exposure? Not directly. But we'll need to offer restitution. At minimum, personnel file corrections and compensation for unpaid overtime. Do it. She nodded. You're keeping the branch open?
Yes.
But leadership will be rebuilt from scratch. No one promoted under the old system gets a free pass. She hesitated. There's one more thing. You asked for every flagged file. There's an applicant who was turned away for unclear reasons. Top of her class in logistics. Applied twice. No interview. Name? Janine handed him the sheet. Quinn read it, then picked up the phone. Get her on the line. I want to speak with her directly. By the end of the week, the branch felt different. Not fixed, nothing changes overnight, but different. There were pauses between tasks. People talked again. Tasha had started a whiteboard near the front desk, writing out daily goals. Jordan was still nervous, but he asked questions now. Kyle's section was already cleaner. Micah didn't say much, but his presence carried more weight than any title. Quinn walked out to the dock around closing time. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the concrete. Micah joined him. You staying much longer? 2 more days. Enough to make sure the systems are in motion. You think this can last? It has to, but not by force. By accountability. Micah nodded. Quinn looked out over the lot. Fewer cars now. The crew had gone home on time for once. I forgot why I started this company, he said. Micah didn't respond. He didn't need to. Quinn turned back, toward the building. He had 2 days left to rebuild a foundation that had cracked under his watch. But this time, he wasn't building it alone. By Monday morning, the warehouse held a quiet tension not from fear, but anticipation. The changes were real now, not just promises. A new temporary schedule was posted near the break room, printed on thick paper and laminated. No one had to squint at a faded sheet taped to a clipboard anymore. It listed fair shift rotations, overlapping coverage, and the names of the new interim leads, including Tasha at front of house and Micah finally officially recognized as warehouse floor coordinator, even if he still refused the title. Quinn arrived early, like he had every day that week, not in disguise now, and not in a suit either. Just a company polo and jeans. He walked the floor with a small notebook in hand, jotting things down without interrupting anyone. He'd stopped giving speeches. People didn't need grand gestures. They needed to know their ideas mattered and that someone would act on them. At the receiving dock, Jordan was checking off a shipment with a clipboard in hand. His movements were more deliberate than before, less rushed. A second employee, a veteran from another branch brought in by HR, was helping him break down the pallet. Quinn watched from a few feet back before stepping in. "Morning," Quinn said. Jordan turned, startled for just a second. "Good morning, sir. You're making the new system work. It's not perfect yet, but I think we're getting there. You've got another temporary assistant starting next week. Once the load stabilizes, we'll lock in the best fit." Jordan nodded, then hesitated. "Can I ask something?" "Go ahead. Why'd you come here undercover instead of just sending someone from corporate?" Quinn leaned against the frame of the loading bay. "Because I stopped trusting filtered information. And I needed to feel what it's like to stand where you stand." Jordan looked down at the clipboard. "A few days ago, I almost quit. I needed this job, but I didn't think anyone cared." "I care," Quinn said. "But caring doesn't matter unless it changes something." In the front office, Tasha had already reorganized the pickup schedules. She'd started calling customers the day before to confirm orders ahead of time, cutting down wait times. Quinn stepped behind the counter and waited while she finished with a contractor. "I heard you stayed late last night," he said once the lobby cleared. "I wanted to get the new system loaded before the week started. If it works, we should finally stop losing orders in the pile." "What do you need to make it permanent?" "A second terminal. And someone who can handle invoice printing during peak hours." "I've been doing both." "You'll have both approved by next week." "Anything else?" She hesitated. "That whiteboard I put up, it's good for short-term goals. But we need a better way to track customer satisfaction. Something measurable." Quinn nodded. "We'll set up a pilot program. You'll lead it." She didn't thank him. She didn't need to. She turned back to her screen and kept working. In returns, Cal had reorganized the entire rack system over the weekend. Quinn walked in to find him drawing a new layout on a dry erase board. "You're serious about this redesign," Quinn said. "I've been sitting on it too long. Might as well build it right. You'll get the supplies. And I want you to train the 2 new hires coming in next week." Cal turned, marker still in hand. "Train them how?" "Your way. The right way." "I can do that." Quinn watched him go back to sketching. The energy was different now, not frantic or desperate, just focused. Later that day, HR returned with the applicant Quinn had called about. Her name was Desiree, and she arrived wearing clean work boots and carrying a folder of certifications, including one in warehouse logistics that most managers didn't even have. He met her in the office. "You applied twice," Quinn said. "Never got an interview. I thought I'd made a mistake on the form." "You didn't. You were filtered out by someone who no longer works here." She sat straighter. "I'd still like the job. If it's available." "It is. You'll report to Micah. He knows what he's doing. I can start tomorrow." "There's one condition," Quinn said. "If something's wrong, I want to hear it."
Direct.
No filters.
Can you do that?
"Yes, sir." "Then welcome aboard." Outside, the floor was humming again, but not with tension. There was movement, collaboration. People asking each other for tools, checking bin tags, sharing updates. Not every problem was solved.
Quinn could see that.
But people were learning to speak up. That was the beginning. The only thing left was closure. That came in the form of a meeting called late in the afternoon, not in the break room, but in the warehouse itself. Everyone gathered near the center aisle, standing between shelves of high-vis jackets and safety helmets. Quinn stood on a small step stool not above them, just high enough to be heard. This branch was broken. Not because of the work, not because of the volume, but because people in charge stopped listening. "I let that happen. That's my responsibility." No one interrupted. "But I've seen what this place can be. I've seen what all of you are capable of when you're respected, resourced, and treated like people, not just labor." He looked around the circle. No one was checking watches. No one was leaning away. "Going forward, this branch will operate with transparency. Every employee will have quarterly check-ins, not just for performance, but for feedback. You'll be heard. And if you're ignored, you'll have a direct line to someone who will act. Someone in the back, maybe Cal, crossed his arms, but not defensively this time. Just listening. We'll be setting up a rotating employee council, 3 people at a time, rotating every 60 days. They'll meet with regional leadership and represent your concerns.
No filter. No fluff.
He stepped down from the stool. These aren't favors. These are standards. And if you ever see them slipping, I want to know. The room stayed quiet, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full. Present. Quinn walked back through the warehouse, not followed, not watched. Just moving among his team. That night, he stayed late, not in the office, but on the floor. He helped Jordan finish tagging a shipment, helped Desiree sort her first batch of gloves, even helped Tasha clean the front counter. At closing, he stood by the door, shaking hands as people left. Not one of them looked down. Not one of them avoided his eye. Micah was the last to leave. "You're really going back to corporate tomorrow?" he asked. "I have to. There are 7 other branches. I need to make sure this doesn't happen anywhere else." Micah nodded. "You'll come back, though." "I will. But next time, I won't need to wear a name tag that says Todd." Micah grinned. "Good. I think we burned that one anyway." The lights shut off one by one as the building settled into silence. Outside, the air was cool. The parking lot was nearly empty, just Quinn's truck and a few scattered cars. He climbed in, started the engine, and sat for a moment, watching the warehouse in the rearview mirror. Not perfect,
Not finished.
but real. And finally, heading in the right direction.